Hi, this is Randy Cross, Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers. And my favorite podcast is Verbal
But our
Shenanigans.
shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really. Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hello, everybody. Welcome on back. Nice to hear from you. Nice to see you. Nice to join you yet again here on Verbal Shenanigans. For our first-time listeners, welcome. Strap in. Get ready for an audio experience only because we're too lazy to upload video every week that you will surely enjoy.
I mean, it's amazing video, too. It's me and Scott and a microphone in front of us, and Scott has a living room basement, and I have a basement. And man, if you only saw it on video, man, I mean, I know I got the heart palpitating just describing what I just said, but
yeah, it's funny. I am still a consumer of podcasts, just audio. Even the ones I listen to, I listen to them while I'm doing things. I never sit down in front of a screen and watch people talk.
no. It seems like the thing you would do and all. I thought that's why, when I came over your house and I saw all those cameras out of your window pointing at your neighbors, I thought that's what you did all day.
I mean, then again, why would we be surprised? Basically, the news, every show on ESPN ever is watching people talk about things. So really, it's not really that different.
I mean, I guess it's something like, the verbals doesn't give them enough stimulus and all. It's like I gotta give something for my eyes, Maybe we'll just have a dancing animation in front of people when we do it.
Did you just say the verbals?
Yeah. Yeah, the shenaniganiverse and the verbals, yeah.
Yeah. We're back, everybody. If you're just tuning in, that's Mike. He's good for another 3 to 4 of those by the end of this episode. Where you're not quite going to understand what he's talking about.
The verbals. Everybody knows the verbals.
I still, all these years later, am still catching on to certain things. I kind of know when he messes something up, and I know what he means. But I'm wondering if people at home, hearing you for the first time, are what is this guy generally talking about?
That sounds like a great game show. Like you just sit somebody down. It's like, I'm going to give Burlew a question. He's going to give a general statement. And first round, it may be something like, I'll say verbals or whatever. And then around round 4, that's when we get into high level making words up, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't a word thing.
Yeah. I mean, we even got comments from someone who listened to us, and she was like, oh my God, guys, you really took it far this time. And then she was asking you about what was it, semen kegs last week?
Yeah. That sounds like a Burlew invention, semen kegs. Yeah, that's how I signed off last week.
And then you had to correct her, oh no, it was a chicken nugget that I was focused on because you had a plan.
Chicken tenders.
Chicken tenders and impregnating my wife. So if this sounds something interesting to you guys, this is what we do here on the show.
Yeah, that's what I generally ask Scott every week. And Scott, I got a 10-pack. Can I come over?
Yeah.
So not this week, Burlew. Sorry.
Now, we have cut our niche here by, I guess, talking to a lot of very interesting people. And I would not say I am a starstruck kind of guy. Would you, when you meet people in person like that have some fame or notoriety, do you do anything about it?
Man, not really met anybody super famous live, but I mean, doing these interviews, I've never been oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I would react over the top or anything like that. No.
Yeah. I think the only guy I Oh man, I got to try to get a picture. It was when we went to that concert and Bill Nye was sitting a couple rows from us, and I was like, I got to try to snag this picture somehow.
Yeah. And that's actually a hell of a compliment because everything I've heard on the internet is he is not generally known as a nice guy, apparently. A lot of
Really?
people have bashed him in different ways. And all. Like I remember
Ironically,
one of
though,
our
when I
guests
took the
did.
picture with him, he had like a card that he gave me, like, "Hey, I took a selfie with Bill Nye," or something like that. I don't know where that is, but
Yeah, like I've heard a lot of like and when they talk like top 10 a-hole celebrities, he makes a decent amount of lists.
really,
What I've heard, yeah.
well, I have a picture with him. It's not it's not a glorious picture. I mean,
No.
I look bad. He looks like he's like, I don't know, just he looks
Little scout.
hammered in it actually, but he's not. He's just it's like one of those mid-blink pictures that he just got caught the wrong way, which it's super strange how we were even there. We interviewed some guy who played concerts in Central Park for free.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And then we went to the concert, and the concert was probably a good hour longer than it should have been.
oh yeah, it was long. Yeah.
It was like we were just like, all right, this should be the ending. Oh, you got another 6 in you. Okay, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, this past week, I did one of the first, I guess, fanboy things I've done in quite a long time.
Ooh,
As but people
yeah.
listening, we are both big fans of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We've had numerous
Max Parents.
guests from the show, Max Parents, Bob Rush, who was Doyle McBoyle. We had even the guy who played the neighbor and Gang Goes to the Suburbs. So we've had a couple of people on the show, and we've generally searched out people from that show to come on just because to me, I think it's one of the best shows and stories as far as them still being able to keep making the show and doing it their way and whatnot. So I was randomly on the internet one day a couple weeks ago, and it was like,
No,
yes, randomly on
you found the internet?
I did.
Oh man,
I found one of those old discs. I had 250 hours left.
yeah. Oh, Inspector Clouseau, Scott Brennan, look at you.
Yeah. So I saw that Charlie Kelly, Charlie Day in real life, and Glenn Howerton, who plays Dennis, were going to be at a liquor store, which is like 15 minutes from me, which I was like, first I was like, what? Like, this is kind of random. And then I remember they are putting out a whiskey called Four Walls, and they were going to be there, and all you had to do was buy the bottle of whiskey. And I'm like, well, that's no problem. And it wasn't like, it wasn't like this $150 bottle of whiskey or when it was a $26.99, I believe it was.
So I can continue to be an alcoholic and meet a star? That's amazing.
Exactly. And I was like, you know what? Like, I got a picture with Danny DeVito somewhere. I have to find it from years back. I went, and he was doing a limoncello he was selling, and he took picture. And I've been looking crazy for the picture. The only thing I have is a friend taking a picture of me meeting Danny DeVito, but I can't find the main one. But anyway, I was like, you know what, man? This is like 10 minutes from me. Why not? I got to go this day. It's at 4:00. It's not at like 10:00 at night or any weird thing. And I'm like, I got to go do this. So sure enough, I get there around 3:20, something like that. And things at 4. And I'm like, I'll be there nice and early. No problem. And there's a decent line. There's a line like going in the front of the liquor store, and then it's starting to bend like around the other side. But I'm like, hey, if this is it, that's not that bad. Like I thought the front of the line was where, that was the front of the line. And it wasn't bad. It was kind of like a sunny day outside, so I had no problem like waiting outside. Just put my headphones on.
Well, it's always sunny.
See that? Wow.
That's why you hire me.
That was pretty good.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay. And they even gave you like a thing for a free slider at the food truck that was there. I'm like, oh, this is fine.
Wow.
I'm like, it's going to open at 4:00. There's only like maybe 40 people in front of me. I'm like, this is nothing,
Okay.
So they start to like send people out, and the line starts to get real big, and um, they start counting off by like 20. It's like, okay, these 20 people can go in. So they open the doors, and I'm like, okay, like it's just about 4 o'clock, they let people in, and then I was like maybe 15 people from the door.
Uh,
And then sure enough, I get in, and bam, there's the actual line, like
Ooh,
inside the store. They kind of had it like wrapped, like,
double line.
yes.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting there by myself, and I'm like, okay, whatever. It's gonna go quick, you know. Um, and I was also thinking of you during this. I was like,
Aw.
I don't know, and I was thinking you and my wife, not in the way that you would like me to think about.
Ah,
Yeah.
what kind of chicken tenders we're holding in that
No,
scenario?
because she's always like, yeah, we got to take the kids to Disney at one point, and I'm always like, I don't ever want to wait on those lines and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to get anxiety, and I haven't even been waiting that long. Like there's things going through my head, like, yeah, screw it, just leave. Who cares? It's about like. But then I'm inside. I'm like, all right, well, there's no turning back yet. We're here, you know, and like a good like 45 minutes goes by, and everyone's kind of like, what? Like it said from 4 to 6, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, now it's not 45 minutes of like waiting in line because the line's moving. Nothing's moving. Literally nothing. Everyone's just standing there.
Hmm.
Now, here I want to get your thoughts. I'm also looking at the line, and there's a grown man, probably our age, sitting on the floor.
Ooh.
Yeah, bad luck, right? Like
No.
you got to muscle your way to stand up the whole time, even if it bothers you, right?
No, if there's like a rail or something, you hang on that, or
Yeah.
no, total rookie move, and that's what like a 5-year-old does there, sitting on the floor.
Yeah,
Like,
dude, exactly, like a kid sitting like Indian style, or sorry, crisscross applesauce on the ground, like every couple feet. I'm like, what are you doing, man? This is pathetic.
like you got to have like a war story where,
Yeah,
like,
no
yeah,
ailments.
the Viet Cong hit me in the back. I have to sit every 10 minutes and all. Then I'd salute that guy in line. Anybody else, it's like, no, you trash.
Yeah, no ailments, just a fat guy from Philly or Jersey. Like that's all he was. Like
That doesn't narrow down who it could be, Scott.
no.
Let's be honest.
So that's where I'm starting to get like, all right, we're not even moving. And I'm like looking. There's like young kids who work at the liquor store with like walkie talkies, like, oh, it'll be a couple minutes, guys, couple minutes. And I'm like looking around. And when I'm in these situations, I'm always just looking around, like kind of peeking at the front of the line. And you could see like where they would sign. I'm like, yeah, this is long, but this isn't incredibly long where it shouldn't be moving.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're definitely not even in there yet. There's no way they're in there yet. And I do notice that like guys are bringing like the kind of pallets or boxes of their whiskey like towards the room where they're gonna be. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I'm noticing that they're bringing out the pallets, and I deduce that they're probably not in there signing bottle, like they're not bringing the bottles to them. I'm like, they're probably in the back signing them, and they're bringing out full cases of the bottles of whiskey, so that they're all signed, because it's not like a you meet them sign. It's basically you take your picture, you move on, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and I'm also like observing the crowd. Some good Always Sunny representation there. There's a guy dressed as Dayman. There's a
Ooh.
lot of Sunny shirts, a lot of like random Charlie Kelly sayings on shirts and whatnot. So very good representation from the Sunny fan.
I'm kind of curious as to how much time you really had with them, because the amount of time to like fully create a character with costume and all that, to just be like, hey, that's great, click, see you later.
Yeah.
That's almost more defeating than just showing up as a regular person.
Yeah, so I'll get to that in just a second. So eventually, a solid hour of standing just inside with no line movement goes on. I'm starting to get like, this ain't worth it. Like, yeah, I want the picture. Yeah, it would be cool to say. And So all of a sudden, like as I'm saying that, the door is open, and sure enough, from the back room, out pops Charlie and Dennis, and you're like, there's a brief moment in your head, you're like, there was a little like star moment, like, oh wow, like I watched these guys for 16 years, or whatever it is now, and you're like, there they are, and I didn't do anything. I just snapped a picture, and everyone cheers for them.
So you basically had what your son will have when he sees Mickey Mouse one day, right
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, Mickey or Flippy or someone like that. So they go, and I was right. They go and then walk towards the area where they're going to be signing. All of a sudden, boom, like floodgates open and the line starts to move. And we're moving pretty quick. And now in my head, I'm sitting there like, what am I even going to say to these guys? And like, what am I going to say? And part of me wanted to, I had now, I'm always thinking about verbal shenanigans in some way.
Of course.
So I was like, you know what?
As most people should.
I'm going to put on the verbal shenanigans shirt for just general promotion, right? If I put it up online and then the name's on there. B, maybe someone will ask me about the shirt. Like, what's that? Who knows? Or C, maybe Dennis and I keep calling him Dennis, maybe Glenn and Charlie. There's a lot of Irish themed stuff going on here. Maybe they go, hey, what's, what the hell is that? Like, nice shirt. And in my head, I'm like, what am I going to say to them? I said, maybe I'll go up to them and be like, hey, are you guys starting the podcast again? Because I generally want to know, because they stopped kind of right at the writer's strike. I really listened to their podcast all the time. I thought it was great. And then I thought maybe that would be a way to spur on the conversation of, I have a podcast. We've actually interviewed a lot of people from the show. You guys should check it out. Not expecting any full answers, but I'm just putting little lures in the water.
Hey, you're planting the seeds, if you will.
So in my head, that was my plan. That's what I was going to say to them. Now, I'm curious if in your situation you were in the line by yourself, they were down in Georgia, and you decided to go. Would you have any plan of saying anything to them? Or debating how your interaction might go?
I would probably hey, love your show, blah, blah, be general. And then at the end, probably hey, I'll shoot my shot. If you guys are ever available, I'd love to have you on the show. Just right. Knowing that it's really up there with winning the lottery and stuff like that.
Sure.
For this to happen. But I don't think I'm going to have a full plan. And I'm not going to be in the picture, this is as great as the time I interviewed Steve Whitting.
Yeah.
And then Dennis goes, wasn't that the neighbor from the suburbs? Funny you should say that.
No, the best would be yeah, we interviewed Steve Whitting. He'd be like, who? There's no way they remember every actor that played every character on that show.
Well, that's why I went for the fourth string quarterback right there.
Absolutely. So now I'm also alone, and I think that adds to this kind of thinking. Okay, what am I going to do? If I'm sitting there talking to you in line, we're not worried. You don't care. You're just
waiting. BSing.
Yeah, you're BSing. So now the line's getting short. I'm about 15 people, and I'm not worried about me. I'm kind of just watching them, how they interact with people, how. And I gotta give it to the guys. They're getting hugs. A lot of girls were hugging them. Even a couple guys were going up to hugging them. People were definitely talking a lot. I heard one guy say, "I've been watching you my whole time," blah blah blah. And they're definitely interacting. They're pulling people into photos. So I give them credit. They were not move along. It was a genuine meet and greet kind of.
Oh, that's great.
So it moves to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot my shot, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. I hand the lady my phone. She takes the picture. And all I can muster up as I go to them is I just go, hey, gents. And I shake Charlie's hand. I shake Genesis' hand.
Genesis' hand?
Genesis, Dennis's hand.
The band Genesis was there? Amazing.
It was weird.
It's Always Sunny and Phil Collins. Oh my God.
Yeah, strange mix. And I muster up, hey, gents, thanks. I shake both their hands. I take the picture, and they're like, hey, thanks, man. Thanks for support. And I was going, yeah. And I just walk away and grab my phone. I said nothing. Not a thing. I said, hey, gents. They probably thought I was like a special needs kid the way I went up to them, like, hey, guys, thanks, gents. Yeah. And I remember just like walking from the photo. I'm like, wow, you really shot your shot there, buddy. Like you really put it out on the line. You really took a chance.
So you are basically Ralphie from A Christmas Story, where he finally got on Santa's lap
Mhm.
and he just froze.
Yep.
He's just like, football. Yeah, football. Like they're showing you out the door and you're screaming, no, I really want you
I
on
have a
Verbal
podcast.
Shenanigans. It's a comedy banter podcast. We interview many celebrities.
100%. That is what happened. Not, and I didn't freeze for nervousness. I froze from being nervous about coming off like douchey, like, like, like I didn't want to be like starstruck boy, like grown man, be like, "I'm on my podcast." I was basically just like, I wanted to say thank you, buy the whiskey, take the picture, and I just completely blew it. But it was funny because I was at one point rehearsing. All right, you got to shoot your shot, take the podcast shot. Not even a word about the podcast. The only thing about our podcast is the great photo I took with that shirt on. But I do have a photo of me, Charlie, and Glenn. So I will have that forever. So that's kind of cool. But
I mean, bro, we're at the pinnacle. You could just literally like any chance.
nope.
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 No, I blew it, guys. I blew it. I don't know why I said guys, but
Yeah.
to you, I blew it.
Yeah.
I blew
No.
it. Not a
Just-
single mention.
First Sean Kemp, and now this, Scott.
I did not blow Sean Kemp. I'm a whoa.
I don't know. I think you talked his ear off, and he's like, I ain't answering the phone.
No, I talked to Sean Kemp on the phone, and he was excited about the interview, and then he never showed up, probably because of a little thing called crack cocaine. But
No, he does a lot of crack cocaine. There's no little bit about that when it comes to Sean Kemp. Let's be real.
but in the end, I am happy I went. I got the picture, and I will give a little shout out to Four Walls here. The whiskey, like I bought the Conor McGregor whiskey for the Conor McGregor fight against Khabib, and I thought it'd be fun to have at the party, because we had like a viewing thing. And Conor's whiskey is terrible; it's just not good. This one, I saved it for St. Patrick's Day, which was a couple days later. My buddy came over. I'm like, let's try it. Legit good whiskey. Like they definitely put together. It's like a rye whiskey and an Irish whiskey blended together. Legit good. Like I would buy that again and keep it on the shelf. So I will give the Sunny guys credit, and I thought it was so interesting because I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, Charlie was just in Mario Brothers and like a million other big movies. Dennis just won a bunch of awards for playing
The guy from BlackBerry.
the guy from BlackBerry. I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing at a liquor? Meanwhile, they have one of the longest running sitcom or whatever. What are they doing at a liquor store? But I guess
That does seem like a random place, and guys, we're gonna take you to Hollywood. We're gonna take you to Hawaii. We're gonna take you
the
to
city,
the greatest New York City.
Yep.
Also, Northwest New Jersey.
Yep. Wayne, New Jersey's Bottle King, isn't that? Like,
Damn, a Bottle King?
yeah.
Not even like a real big like, brand store. Just random Bottle King? Damn.
Yeah, but
Now-
it was. In the end, it was worth it. It was worth it, I guess.
Now, you did miss one piece and all that you somewhat got a little extra cred where you tagged them on Instagram and said, hey, good whiskey, and they reposted it. Again, you could have put in said Instagram story, by the way, would you be on Verbal Shenanigans podcast? Froze again.
Like-
Again.
I'm frozen.
No, I'm saying you froze.
Oh,
Normally your camera and
No.
freezes, but you froze at the opportunity.
oh yeah, I froze. Mike, 90% of this podcast success or lack of success is because I am horrified at promoting myself. I have posted about 3 comedy clips in my 11 years of doing comedy because I don't want to put them up there because I hate everything I do.
And the one was Hunkamania, which was weird.
I hope that you know this by now. We are not the best promoters. Let's put it that way. We do our
Probably
thing. We put it out. We do the same thing for years and we go, let's try this new thing. And then we don't really try that new thing that much. And we kind of sit here and go, why are we growing? Because we stink at promoting.
Yeah. I will say, I kind of think like lately, like a couple of people at work is like, oh, I found your podcast. I'm going to listen to it. Like somebody from the gym's like, I heard you're doing a podcast. I want to listen. And I'm kind of looking at my first response in my head is, why?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even, I should be like excited, but at the same point, I'm like, what's this setting up?
And then you're
Like, I got like a whole, like they got a plan or something where in the end, like they're going to dump pig's blood on my head in like the school hall.
Yeah. Or you're like, oh God, what did I say on that episode I listened to?
That'll be the one. It's like, what did I say about Jewish people? Dang. Man, I should have told the HR lady to listen to my show.
But in the end, it was cool. It was cool. I got. Listen, it's one of those pictures, and I'm like, that's pretty cool, you know. So I got 2 more to go. I got to get Rob and Caitlin now, and I will have the quintuplet. I will have the full Mount Rushmore plus another head of Always Sunny,
And Steve Whitting.
Yeah, and Steve Whitting. But yeah. So Mike, let's segue to guest time. I don't know how you go from Always Sunny to NFL players, but give it a shot, Mike. It's your turn. Segue out of this.
Well, I mean, the weather's nice.
Okay.
It's sunny out there, and we're getting ready for spring football right now. But we got a guest here that kind of played at another level here.
Right, you had me until we're getting ready for spring football.
What?
Nobody's ready for spring football.
Coming out, Scott. The XFL and the USFL merged together. This is a big deal.
You would be the guy ready for spring football. Like, yeah.
You don't want to see the Birmingham Stallions face the Arlington Renegades? That's the XFL and the USFL champions, week 1. What is wrong with you?
You would be the only guy like more ready for spring football than fall football. Like, guys, come on. It's or like hashtag opening day, like you in front of your TV with like beer and nacho. You're like, here we go.
But let's not forget, that's the story behind this right here, because I watched more spring football when I was younger and I was a Philadelphia Stars fan. I don't remember my first NFL football game until the Washington, former name, won the Super Bowl. So you're somewhat true in that fact.
All right, spring football. Now we have a segue. Give it to us.
But Scott, we get champions on the show. Tonight is no exception. I am talking about a 3-time Super Bowl champion for the San Francisco 49ers, center guard Randy Cross. He played in the league for about 10 years, or 12 years, sorry. Had an amazing career. I think he went to 3 Pro Bowls, had an amazing career in broadcasting, CBS, radio. Let's talk to him about his whole life and what's it like to be a champion with the champions of podcasting.
Randy Cross. Get him on the line.
Hey. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Randy, we can see.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about this. My eye doctor, my appointment, and the doctor's not close, ran about an hour long, so I'm still in traffic trying to get home.
Can you see at least?
Yeah.
After they dilate you and put that goop in your eye, it's not that easy.
All right, this is perfect. We got a half-blind Randy driving his car. This is a perfect setup for an interview. Let's do it.
Yeah, well, it might get a little exciting news. You never know.
So, Randy, thank you so much for joining the show. I guess the best way to start off, being a lifetime 49er and it being about a month and a half from that Super Bowl, how you feeling? Have you gotten over it yet a little?
Yeah, no, even when I was playing, you never either liked or got used to losing. And unfortunately, the last 3 times they've been in these games, they've lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't get any easier to tolerate. You don't, nothing says you got to accept it, but I guess you do have to tolerate it.
That's why Mike's a Washington fan. There's no ever expectations of them getting there. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, especially now that you're the Commoders.
Oh yeah. The raging Commoders, yeah. But you can't guarantee getting over it because I have a friend, Jason Rush, who's a huge 49ers fan. I told him I'm going to be talking to you. I'm like, you have any questions for him? And he just wanted to confirm, do you agree that the Chiefs held during the entire game?
Oh, that was they've never been called in any of those Super Bowls for a holding penalty. I mean, it's when that came out later on, I went, how does that work? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's I don't know. It's hard to watch, but the game is so different now.
Mm-hmm.
And the athletes, especially on those edges, are so talented. And, I would argue that the people that play those, outside backer, defensive end, tight end, might throw in a big wide receiver here and there. Those might be just the purest athletes on the field and maybe in the sport.
Right.
And, so it doesn't make holding legal, but I understand.
Yeah. Alrighty. I was curious. I was, reading your background a bit and your early, athletic career, rugby and football and shot put and, a lot of strength games and whatnot. But I was curious with your upbringing as far as in Brooklyn, were these things like easily accessible to you? Like I'm trying to picture like the city life, but also, the athletic, exposure. What was it like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was out of Brooklyn by the time I was like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
I was in LA,
Gotcha.
in the Valley, in the San Fernando Valley, which I guess technically was still a city. It wasn't quite the metropolis it is now,
right.
But yeah, it wasn't city. But it wasn't all I played until I got to high school. I always played baseball.
Huh.
I didn't play football. I didn't do any of those other things. That kind of found me later once I got into high school.
Now I know you were a hell of a shot putter and all. You even broke records at your school against like future world record holders and Jim Neidhart. Were you ever looking towards like doing the Olympic thing instead of like football or anything like that?
It had crossed my mind. I mean, the one that I'd have been shooting for would have been 80, and that was in Moscow. We ended up, not going to that one. So, best laid plans probably would have kicked in about then. But the shot put was something that I had a couple of great coaches. Bill Leeds was our track coach, and he was pretty legendary as far as the way that he used to win. And Harry Welch, who was also a California High School Hall of Fame coach, was our shot put coach and taught me really, really well. But I never lifted weights. I mean, I didn't lift weights until my second year in the NFL.
Wow.
I hated lifting weights because at least when I was young, they couldn't explain why it hurt so much the next day.
Yeah.
Every time I lifted, it hurt like hell. I was like, what's the fun in this? I'd go out and run or play basketball or play baseball or do something different. I didn't need to lift weights to do that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's obvious that's another thing that's drastically different. I mean, my son, who was born in 1990, he played high school football, right here by us. And he started training, with a trainer when he was about in the 9th grade. And he was probably stronger than I was up until that point of the second year in the pros. He was probably at least that strong or better when he was in 9th grade, the way that they had him training in weights. I just never did it. I eventually got to, be very strong, or at least I thought was very strong. I mean, I did sets of 5 at about 405 on the bench.
Nice.
But and squatted. I always had really, really good leg strength and really good quickness. So it was a good combination for a guy that was trying to be a shot putter. But I got to my freshman year in college, and I threw the 16-pound, the big shot, like 60 feet the first time I did it. And I just ended up going back to play spring football and never really picked it back up.
Yeah, I was curious, like, how'd you end up on the line? Like, I feel like, I've worked with high school athletes, but a lot of them never like dream of becoming on the line. They're almost like recruited or found just on their body size, or they find someone like, you'd be great on the line. How did you end up like, okay, going from basketball and football and baseball or whatever to being like, okay, you're made for the O-line, you're made for the D-line, whatever, how'd that happen?
My freshman year in high school, it was purely a matter of the eye test. I went out for football because I was I had to go. My father made me go to a Catholic all-boys school. So I'm going to play football because I don't know anybody. He says, well, go out for football. You'll meet people. So I go out for football, and I always had a really good arm. I had all the baseball. I was a pitcher and a catcher, and we played football. I was the quarterback. So I wanted to go out for quarterback, and the coach looked at me, and I was like, I was like 5'8", about 170 pounds. I mean, I was a little butterball. And he looked at me and said, nah, you're going to be playing up here. So he put me on the offensive line, and I guess by the end of my freshman year, I was 6'1" and weighed about 200 pounds. So, yeah, I started getting taller and started getting heavier, but I basically stayed on the defensive side mostly my sophomore and junior year, and then my senior year I played a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense, but primarily I was a defensive end. And you'll find that true for a lot of guys that end up being offensive linemen. They, especially nowadays, is you're a defensive lineman in high school. Right. And they convert you over to offensive line.
Now, when you made it to college, UCLA, they had like a whole rotating system. I heard you in the interview talk about like one play you'll be guard, then like a couple plays later they're putting you over at center and all that. What were the plays easy enough to remember? Or were there times where you're like in a mental block where it's like, oh, I'm here, I got to do this, versus if I'm next to myself or wherever?
Well, we had 2 offensive lines. So we played 2 series. The first line would, and I was the right guard on the first line. And then the second line had come in, and I was the center on the second line. So I would switch back and forth throughout the game like that. It wasn't probably the best thing for recognition, I guess. But it was versatility can be kind of a double-edged sword. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Was the intent on that to give different looks or keep guys fresh or a little bit of both?
Well, we had 9 guys that could really play.
Okay.
And, why not just wear people's butts down? And that's what we did. We ran the Houston Veer offense. So it wasn't the wishbone, but it was nearly the wishbone. And, we were kind of a challenging team when it came to stopping us from running the ball.
At what point in your life did you think you had a legitimate chance of making it to the next level? Like, was it your sophomore year, junior year? Like, when did you say, okay, this is definitely a possibility?
Well, spring football, my junior year, which back then was when the current draft crop would kind of get their chance to do it. That was kind of like a pro day back then. And I ran a really good 40. I ran like a 4.7 40, and I did all the quickness things and all that other fun stuff. And I ran into Gil Brandt from the Cowboys back then. And he told me, he goes, do you realize you're going to be a first or second round draft pick next year? And I kind of looked at him, and he goes, you look surprised. I said, yeah, I really hadn't given it much thought, to be honest with you. And he kind of goes, well, that's not the answer I was looking for. But yeah, I mean, that was the first time anybody from the NFL level. Terry Donahue, my offensive line coach, was always very adamant that I was going to be a pro. And God bless him. He had more faith in me probably than even I did. But that he was the guy that mentioned it the most, but Gil Brandt was the first one that was actually in the game that said it to me.
Interesting. Now, I've lived all my life, me and Scott, we've always known, like, 49ers has been a dynasty in our lifetimes, 80s, 90s, even up to today. They've always generally been a really good team. But when, after the year you got drafted, there was quite a few years that the 49ers were on the slide, a lot of losing seasons. Out of curiosity, what's the feeling in the locker room during like 77 through 80 with you guys? Are you still thinking we got something to build on, or is there a lot of tough times there?
Yeah, I mean, my first year, 76, we had a winning season. We were 8-6. We didn't make the playoffs because we lost a game to probably the critical game with St. Louis, because they ended up making the playoffs and we didn't. But after that, you know, we had one more year where there were only 14 regular season games. And then there were 2-14, you know, 5-7, 2-14, 2-14. And we were bad. Like, I would nominate our 78 team as one of the worst teams in NFL history. Because we were very challenged. We had a very, very difficult time dealing with other teams. And it was a bad organization. We had some good players, but just not enough of them to compete right. And as I would learn later on, we did not have what was probably the most important ingredient was, you know, an excellent head coach, a really good organization, and ownership that was obsessed with winning. And when we finally kind of got that combination after Bill got there and with Eddie owning the team and whatnot, it turned positive. Let's put it that way. The first time we won the Super Bowl was my 6th year, and it gave me a very good appreciation of how nice it was to win. Because boy, losing really sucked.
Yeah. Now, at this time of your life, like we know it doesn't exist now, but back in the day in sports, we the pay wasn't nearly anything like it is now, and guys would work jobs in the off season, and it was a totally different world. What was your life like then, as far as like football and work balance? Were you able to kind of just focus on football, or did you have to kind of think, outside the game too? And I'm curious if that's whatever led you to broadcasting.
Well, a little bit. I mean, my dad pointed me in the media side, as a kid. He was an actor, but he always insisted it would make my job easier as an athlete if I learned to get along with the media. He told me at a pretty young age, if you ever get that chance, don't make it an adversarial relationship. make it one that's positive. Because it will make things just more advantageous, a little bit easier for you. And he was 100% correct. That's for sure.
When this team started to grow and you're starting to get Super Bowls and all, could you recognize early on that talent that you had on the team? Like, did you first see like Joe Montana or Jerry Rice and be like, my God, these are like super athletes or extraordinary people? Or did it take a while to be like, yeah, kid, you're the next one in line. Go in there and do something? Yeah,
the first time you saw Joe run the offense, it was not hard to figure out at some point, this guy's going to be really, really good at this. Because it was the perfect match between an athlete and a system. And Walsh was very, very fortunate, he got a guy like that, and he got him, in a pretty good spot too. So didn't have to, it was convenient that he didn't have to use a first round draft pick, because we didn't have very many of those. We traded away a lot of those earlier in my career. But getting Joe. And then when Jerry got there, he was fast. He'd run like a 4.7 or something in the combine, and everybody was like, "Guy's doesn't have that much speed." He'd been unbelievable at Mississippi Valley State. But and the first practice we have, Walsh runs him on a go, and he's going against Eric Wright, who was a legitimate 4.3, 4.4 guy. He was really fast, and Jerry ran right by him, and he catches a bomb. And, Bill's got this big smile on his face. And, it just like, I guess he's fast enough to go by fast guys. So I don't care what he ran in 40. But that was the first 10. And his rookie year, he had a couple of drops, on big plays. And, he's such an obsessed individual that I'm not sure if that wasn't something that, just spurred him on even more. But, yeah, he was pretty special. But that team was built not only through the draft, but also through trades. We made some trades with people in our division. We made trades with people on our side of the country, like San Diego, and got some great defensive players that made a huge difference. That's one of the things that's underappreciated about those great Niner teams is that defense was ungodly. I mean, they were really, really good. And, we were as big of fans as anybody. You'd get on the sideline, get a drink of water, and talk to your assistant coach, and then we'd go over and watch. They usually weren't on the field real long, but they'd be kicking the crud out of people when they did.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned how, you didn't really train weights until, you were, second year and in football and one in pro football. Do you think that any of that led to your longevity? Because you played a pretty long time. And now we see so many, especially in sports like baseball and whatnot, we're led to believe that it's possibly overtraining leading to these oblique injuries and whatnot. Do you think there's anything in that or just coincidence?
I think it was mainly a product of my era.
Gotcha.
It just wasn't that prevalent.
Gotcha.
They were, weightlifters were kind of bodybuilders back then.
Right.
It wasn't a strength thing so much. So, yeah, I don't think so. I think, more of the development of the game, was just getting going. And it was, as far as the off seasons. And by the time I did start lifting weights and working out in the off season, you would take 2 weeks off after the season was over. And after a year like it was in the Super Bowl, you go to the Pro Bowl and then you'd stay in Hawaii for another couple of weeks and then you'd come home and you'd go right back at it. And you'd be working out all the time, every day.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of the job. So, and I always found other things to do in the off season, start companies. And, after a while I had a production company where I did my own radio and TV shows. So I was never at a lack of something to kind of keep my brain busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you got that third Super Bowl and you retired, was that an easy decision or was there any thought process like, hey, we got a good team, stick around? Did you automatically know you had a job in broadcasting? How'd you come to the end of that decision?
Yeah, not really. Didn't really know it was something that was automatic. I had been sending him tapes, for like 3 or 4 years, because I knew it was something I would like to explore when I was done. But I did not have a job when I retired. I knew I wanted to kind of move on to the next step, move on to the next thing in my life. And it was a decision born out of just kind of observation, watching the tapes and how you're playing and what you're doing. And, you are kind of what you put out there and what people are going to think of you is what you put out there and how you play. And, by the end of my career, I was like, God, I'm just not doing the things that I wanted to do, that I could do, maybe a couple of years before that. So last thing I wanted to do was just hang on and squeeze it till all the juice was out of it. When I told Bob McKittrick, my offensive line coach, and at the Super Bowl that, I was going to the press conference and I was going to announce my retirement, he's like, "What? You're crazy. You can play 3 or 4 more years." And I looked at him and I said, "You know what? 2 things. Not the way I want to, and you ain't cutting me."
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'd had too many friends get cut or get traded and end up going somewhere else, and then maybe somewhere else for another year. And I just didn't want to do that.
So let's talk your entrance into the broadcasting world. Was this okay, I'm retired, I'm immediately jumping into this, or did this take like a couple opportunities from other people? Like, hey, I kind of like this, or were you pretty focused on jumping right in there?
I was pretty focused on getting into the biz. I did some interviews with CBS and I did interviews with NBC. I auditioned for this show that was just kind of getting going called Inside the NFL. A couple others, where, not only with HBO, but others about, doing some of this other broadcasting. And I started doing it and I signed a contract with CBS my first year in 89 to do 9 games. It wasn't even a full season contract, and ended up doing 15 because they liked what I was doing and they made space for me. But, then it just sort of went from there. And it was, it's an interesting business. It really is. And I think it's something that, a lot of players talk about wanting to do it. But it's very, very simple. It's easy to figure out. Let's put it that way. Because there's 2 things to it. You either can or you can't. You can learn to be okay.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be somebody that's immediately really good at it, and as fans, you watch it on TV, you see some guy, you go, God, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
You look at Pat McAfee, look at Tony Romo, you look at for years John Madden. You look at certain people, and they can do it, and they can explain things, and it's fun, or they're funny, and it's you either got that or you don't have it. And it's pretty obvious, and you see players all the time that come out of the game and go onto the tube, and you watch him, and you look there, and you go, that's just not very good.
That was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Like, for like young up and coming broadcasters that like may want to get into football or higher level football, it seems now like it's almost predominantly ex players. In fact, some of these pregame shows are like ridiculous. There's 8 guys in suits standing around, all,
exactly.
They all got wacky suits on, and 8 of them are in every segment. Do you think there's still room for the young non-athlete to make his way into there, or does it seem like it's pretty much we're going to keep taking from the pool of players or ex-players?
I think your odds as your place, let's put it that way, as a non-athlete in the game when it comes to TV, as a play-by-play guy, or maybe a sideline person.
Gotcha.
Or, maybe a host. But, if I'm watching something, I want to hear from somebody that's been there and done that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, that's going to be a coach or a player. And, I can't think of too many people in the sport or in sports TV that have absolutely no experience.
Sure.
As either of those. That I've done much. I mean, the only guy is probably Howard Sell, and he was a purely New York phenomenon that became a national figure.
That's true. With everything you've done, color commentary, studio, radio, NFL, college, anyone in particular that really like came to your heart where you're like, wow, I really love this?
Yeah. I mean, just doing the games, is just whether it's college or the NFL it's one of the few things. I have no delusions. I've had 2 so-called jobs in my life. I played professional football and I talked about professional football and now college football.
Yep.
And I know how lucky I have been. There's no 2 ways around it. It's just a great kind of a business to be able to be in. And it's a great thing to be able to do, and you really look forward to it. I mean, I've been on Super Bowl pre-games and done Super Bowls on the radio and playoff games and in the NFL scene and all those other things. And I think just the games week to week, no matter where you are or what you're doing, just being able to sit there and describe and sort of share your thoughts on a game and what's going on in front of you. It's about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on.
I'm curious what your thoughts are. You worked in the professional level of broadcasting now for quite a while. You've done radio shows, commentating. I'm curious what you think about people's general ability now in this day and age where we can pick up a microphone and start a podcast from scratch, start a radio show, get your content out there. What do you think people are losing the ability to do it, quote unquote, professionally, or do you think it's a great opportunity for everyone to kind of jump in and get their feet wet and see if it's something for them?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. I mean, probably the best example of that is, one of the biggest figures in sports media right now is a freaking punter.
Yep.
Who wanted to hear what a punter had to say? But yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity, I think, for people to share opinions and share thoughts. And, it's one of the fantastic things about, in this country, our First Amendment, just the concept in general of freedom of speech. And people also have a freedom not to listen. And if you're worth listening to, they're going to find you. And I think it's great for people to give it a go, give it a try, and you never know what you're going to be really good at. And if you've ever been in any kind of marketing or sales positions or had those kind of jobs, there are people that are really, really smart or that are really, really talented. And then there's that every kind of company has that 1 or 2 guys that are just selling ice cube to Eskimos kind of, people that they get along with people and people like them. And those are the kind of people that, this business needs because, it's a people business ultimately.
Yeah, I think one thing great about this whole age is that it's just brought long form interviews and we really get to see our musicians, real personalities, athletes, it's not these timed, we got a 4-minute segment with Randy Cross, we're going to find out 3 things about him and then the commercial. I think it's really allowed us to peek behind the curtain and realize that people are like normal people or funny people. Like it's great.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I love podcasts. I listen to all sorts of different ones. I mean, my favorite, without a doubt, is Joe Rogan.
Yep.
Because you never know who the hell he's going to talk to.
No, every week.
I mean, one week he's got Graham Hancock. The next week he's got, Jake Paul getting ready to get the blessings knocked out of him by Mike Tyson. Who knows what you're going to see. So, yeah, and those kind of things, I think, really, I enjoy those because I'm like everybody else. I'm like the American public in general. I've kind of got an ADD approach. I don't stick with things really, really long. So, if it's one subject, I like it. I respect your ability to convey that message, but I'm not going to stay real interested. I love things that aren't pigeonholed, that can be, not everything to everybody, but they've got a variety to them because I like that. That's kind of how I watch things, how I listen to things, and that's kind of how I read.
Speaking of things you love, I was checking out your Instagram, and you got a ton of pictures on like the grill or the smoker right there. What's your go-to like cooking on in the summertime?
Yeah, I do that year round actually. I've now worked myself up to a Kamado Joe. It's a style of smoker, lack of a better term, kind of barbecuer. But it can do just about anything. It's good size, and I'll do briskets to ribs to pork bellies to you name it. I'll do it, and I really enjoy it. And I respect people that have a talent for that, because it is a talent, and it does take a certain amount of commitment to it, without a doubt.
I just entered into the world of the Blackstone, and that's been pretty fun.
Yeah.
That's been fun to cook on.
Oh yeah, I'm a big smash burger guy.
That is,
Well, Randy, we really appreciate your time you giving us here. It's always an honor. We always watch your career. I've watched you on TV. It's so glad to get a hold of you and pick your mind for a little while. So we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I was a little late.
no, no.
We're all good. We're all good. Are you still down here in Georgia, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
I live out in Alpharetta, Georgia, and on a golf course.
Oh,
So
okay. I live in Douglasville.
life is good now that I can actually golf now. I was having some knee problems, so now I can get back out on the course.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to hear about what you're up to or any look at your social media, what's the best place to go?
Probably X for social media wise. It's Randy Cross FB, and I've got a podcast that I've been doing for quite a while. I haven't updated probably about 6 months. I'm getting ready to start cranking that back up, and that's at randycross.com.
Awesome. And final question for you. I watched a Miller Lite commercial where you bent down and a woman recognized you from that. Can women still recognize you from bending down nowadays?
Yeah, I'm proud to say I think I've still got a pretty good ass.
Yeah. Let's see it. Let's see it. No.
Of course, I'm told by a regular basis by my wife that I am an ass, so that's part of it.
Yeah, ditto here. So
Well, I'm glad you like variety, Randy, because before the last couple guests on our show were we had a sled dog racer, the announcer from Double Dare, and then before that we had a couple American gladiators. So you fit right into the variety line here. So
yeah, I've got an old teammate was an American gladiator.
Which one?
Mike Horton.
Oh, okay. We had Jim
Star.
Yeah,
Laser.
He's on Rams too, I think.
Yeah, no, and Mike actually played at UCLA
nice.
when I was there, and he played a little bit of pro football, but American Gladiators was big claim to fame.
Awesome.
All right, Randy, thank you so much for your time. We wish you continued luck on the podcast, radio, everything you're doing, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, Mike, the one and only Randy Cross.
No UFL questions got in there. I got petrified. I couldn't talk to him about.
I know you froze. You didn't say, "Are you ready for some football next week?" And he would have looked at you like, "Huh? Wait, what? The combine?"
God, the San Antonio Brahmas are back. Okay, the San Antonio Brahmas.
What's funny is like the draft will have more total ratings than the entire.
Oh yeah.
UFL. What is it? USFL?
UFL.
UFL.
Yeah. Come on, man.
The entire season, the draft will have higher ratings than the entire season combined. But there's just no place for it. But yeah, Randy Cross, what a good guy. I wonder if he knows that during the interview he was showing like his phone was showing us like his ear and like his hair. At one point we didn't know if we were like entering Randy with there was some interesting angles there as we were talking to Randy.
I'm assuming he did because first he was coming back from his eye doctor and he was driving, so that's why he couldn't just like hold it and point to his face.
Yep.
And I guess when he got home, it's just like, hey, I'm used to like 80,000 people screaming, so I can hardly hear as is. I'm gonna just shove it to my ear, you know.
Yeah. We were in his ear, literally. That's how good of an
Mhm.
interview it was.
That makes 7 Super Bowl rings on this show, Scott.
There you go. How many do we have?
Um, let's see, -7. I think that keeps us at 0.
So what do we have? Dilfer, Joe Jacoby, and
Randy Cross. Those are the only ones, yeah.
Not bad. And when we got Lenny Dykstra.
Yeah, we have a MLB or World Series champion. We've had 2 Stanley Cups, if I recall.
Not to mention the keeper of the Stanley Cup, one of my all-time favorite interviews, Pritchard, Phil Pritchard? Yeah.
You're one of my favorite people.
I don't remember his name.
Yep.
Something Pritchard.
He just holds the cup and all. He don't need a name. Cup guy. Look at you holding that cup. Look at you, cup guy.
White glove cup guy.
Oh, and 2 NBA titles also.
2 NBA titles, couple Olympians. We've had it all here. We've had it all. And a cheese lady. We've had a cheese lady. Yeah.
It's called variety, Scott. That's what we bring to people.
As Randy said, he likes podcasts with variety because he has no attention span for one thing, which is what we've done for years.
Yeah, but I guess segue, Scott, we can talk about how I was a champion, my friend.
You?
Yes.
A champion.
I am the champion. Also, as you know, as I brought up on the show before, I've been going to Orange Theory, doing my workouts and stuff like that. We don't have to bring up that one story we talked about.
Yes, you almost stunk out the whole gym with your body odor, and literally got spoken to by one of the coaches about how you stink.
That was
but we don't have to bring that up.
That was a complete exaggeration of the true story with some factual pieces in there, but still, we don't need to talk about that.
I'm not finding any exaggeration. You literally stunk so bad that they told you smell really bad.
The way you provided the stink levels, I believe, is an exaggeration.
No, there's no exaggeration. You literally got pulled aside and they said you stink so bad, you got to do something to come back.
Yeah, but that still doesn't equate to like the calculations of what you're presenting to the audience right now. So I believe I want to move on to me being champion.
All right, Stinky Champ, go ahead. Let's see.
All right. So they have at the beginning of the year they have a 3-month transformation challenge here, and it's basically they have like the sophisticated scales that get your weight, but they also get your fat content and muscle, all that good information. So they basically have 4 different titles. You know, men and women, you can sign up for fat loss or you can sign up for muscle gain. So I signed up for muscle gain, and I was getting my workout on, but did not feel like, all right, I'm like seriously competing and gonna do that. But I've been doing some good workouts and all, getting heavier weights and so forth. Had a little setback about a month ago, when the wife had COVID, where we couldn't go out and everything. But I felt good about it, and then. So the transformation ended, and I got a text, and they're like, "Hey, you're in the top 5. Are you coming to the celebration tonight?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And I'm
like, "P.S. Please shower, please."
This is the first time we're going to this Buffalo Wild Wings. We do not want to be kicked out, or you're older. No, we don't want people going, "There's something wrong with this ranch." So
the blue cheese is extra funky today. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So we get there, we're having a dinner, and they're making the announcements. My wife came in second in her category she selected, and I'm very proud for her. She's lost a lot of weight. She's been there. She really loves the place. So I'm very excited for her. So they're basically giving out the top 3. So they're like, blah, blah is 3. He's not here. Blah, blah's number 2. He's not here. So when I hear that, I'm like, all right, I'm in the top 5. It's not mine. And all of a sudden they're like, number 1, Michael Burlew. And I'm like, Oh, dang.
Okay.
I got it. And I won a big check.
What'd you
That was
win?
my prize. What's up?
You got one of the big checks?
I it was funny. I was like, I wanted the big check, and they're
Yeah.
like, they have a novelty check, but it wasn't there. But
Ah,
they sign off on a check. I'm like, I want to like go into like Bank of America and be like, all right, how do I cash this?
you only get so many opportunities in life to win one of those big checks or present one of
Yeah.
those big checks. So how much did you win? How much did you haul in?
$250.
Well, that's actually really good.
Yeah, I was shocked too. I was looking, I'm like, shit, man, I might actually keep working out or something. I don't know.
So $250.
Mm.
Now that you're all like muscular and jacked, like and $250 richer, like I
I mean,
mean, what's going on over there? Like, has life changed for you now?
I'm then staying humble. Like as I kind of announced it, I'm like, how do I say this and like not be like, oh, and I'm the champion or anything like that. So it actually took me like a good 20, 30 minutes to write the Facebook post on
Have,
there.
have you been shirtless since then? Just a nonstop, just like
No, I still got
look
to
at
work
me.
on some like fat loss and all. I mean, the guns are here, right
Oh
here,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, we already talked about the calves. You already know the history of.
I know.
I mean, that's going to be my
How's your
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans going? Did you ever-
It's right there with the verbal shenanigans TikTok. It's going to happen one day.
No, just make the verbal shenanigans TikTok, but make it all your calves and see.
And then the government's like, yes, we are seriously banning this. There is nothing. We don't even care. The Chinese sold that a week ago, and we don't care.
Well,
But
that's great. Now you didn't sign up for the category of like losing scent, like smelling better by the end of the month. You didn't sign up for
uh,
that one.
no, I again, like I felt like I wasn't at a high enough level where I could take it down. Like you exaggerate said story with the levels of
I did not
fumes that come
exaggerate.
off.
In fact, you described very, very detailed on how it caused problems with you and your wife, how insane it was, and how your smelly levels and how
No, no,
how you only almost got kicked out of the gym for stinking so bad.
I specifically talked about how my wife defended me by
Yes.
staying at the gym for an hour when I wanted to go home, and then
Yes.
spend the entire night talking to every person while we were
Everybody.
trying to go out
Yes.
to eat about how I don't stink. So my wife was defending me, but we don't have to bring up that story.
No, we shouldn't bring
Hence,
it
I
up.
brought that up, said that earlier. But like I did get one thing on Facebook where somebody's like, "Yo, show off the pictures," and I'm kind of, I don't know. And then like the wife just uploaded like the afters, and I kind of want to see what the befores were to the after to kind of see the difference. But I do feel better. I feel, good. I can lift better, and
Yeah.
I'm the champion. And then on top of it, like when they put out the Instagram, they accidentally put my name twice. So for a minute, I'm like, oh, I was first and second. Look at me.
Wow. I mean, between this haircut, this new non-smelling,
The
the body
non-smelling's been here for a while.
the body champ check that you have, like,
Yep.
are we gonna be able to keep you on the show here? Or are you just gonna you gonna run off?
Now that I got the connections with Hollywood or Vineland, as we went before,
The new Hollywood in
the
Jersey.
New Jersey, I can't guarantee, Scott, that I'm going to say dedicated to the show as long as I possibly can. But if somebody pulls me aside, there's nothing much I can do but give to the world, as you know.
Well, I'm proud of you, buddy. That's good. I find that you and your wife, when you find a thing, you guys really commit to it. Like whether it was running, or 500 trips to Disney, or the new fitness thing. Like it's very like all in kind of mentality.
Yeah, or as I like to say, she gets all in and she grabs me.
Gotcha. Drags you
Kinda.
along.
Yeah.
Um, I guess before we go, I do have a little story or more of an observation. Well,
Ooh.
more of a Scott told you so, not you, this person so kind of moment here.
Oh.
So I had a comedy show on Friday, and this person hit me up on Facebook. Didn't even know how. She's like, someone put me in touch with you, said you do really good shows, blah blah blah, fundraisers, and I'm kind of local to the town. Can we set up a fundraiser for the girls lacrosse team at the high school? I said, sure. This is what I do all the time. No problem. And
Well, that wasn't your first response. Your first response was, why don't we just have them do wet t-shirt,
yeah,
if I recall.
wet t-shirt would make more money, but if you're interested in the comedy show, we can do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been a judge, but all right, we'll do the comedy show.
So right away, I noticed that she's like kind of like a scatterbrainy kind of texter, like messenger, like
Hmm.
all over the map. This is what I want to do. Blah 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 blah. Blah. Like, oh, can you get comics? Blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, and she's asking me prices and whatnot. And I said, okay, well, this is what I usually charge for the full show, the stage, the lights on a Friday and a Saturday, and this is my price for the weekdays. And this has worked now for me for a couple years where I used to like always like haggle and I learned like just say the price. This is what it is. You guys keep all the rest. Like it's
Yeah.
just you pay the comics, I bring the show. I don't deal with ticket sales, anything like that. I take care of my end of the bargain. And I say, I have access to whatever comics we need, how like if you want to go bigger and get a name, blah blah blah. It's all part of my
Yeah.
sales pitch, if you will. But I'm not selling anything. I'm like basically just saying like
So,
this is what it costs. And
so
listen, I'm not making a ton of money. I'm paying my comics, good comics, and then taking some money for myself, and that's the end of it.
yeah, so just to review from today's show, really prepared about selling your show, not prepared to just ask a random person, hey, you want to be on my podcast?
No. Well, I asked this lady. She's coming on in a few minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
now we're talking. And let's delete Randy Cross, but
Yeah.
go on.
So,
Randy Lacrosse.
hey.
Oh,
Hey,
that's
you're
the
all
title of
right.
the show. Woo!
So she's okay. So right away, she's like, okay, well, what would a comic cost? Blah, blah, blah. And what would you cost? I said, am I headlining? Am I featuring? Am I hosting? She's like, oh, I don't know anything about that, which is fine. I said, well, usually your headliner gets the most money because he does the most time, and your hosting features sometimes are close, sometimes the host gets paid a little less. And I said, if I'm featuring, I'll do it for this much. If I'm headlining, I'll do it for this much. Already, like, trying to help them keeping the budget down.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'll do. Because in my mind, because I produce so many shows with all these fundraisers and stuff, I'm like, if I just show up and perform, I don't need that much money. It's nice to just do that, just perform. So in the midst of that, she's like, oh, well, I also have, we'll call her Sally.
Okay.
I also have this comic, Sally. She said she's on. I said, oh, okay. Well, you have a comic on. I said, are you just booking? If you're just booking me, this is what I am. This is it. Then I don't have anything to do with it. Just book me.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, well, I need another comic. I need this. At one point, she's like, can you get me like, I don't know how to say this, like a not white comic? I said, sure, I could ask around.
No,
You know,
you definitely don't know my comedy if you expect me to go that level.
so she's all over the map, and I'm like, okay. And I'm asking her questions like, okay, like how many people does the room hold? Like, is the room big? Is there sound? Like, is there sound? All this. She's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll have sound. We'll have sound. And I'm like, okay, I have another comic. So I get my friend Mike Sicoli, who's been on the show a couple of times. I said, he's not black, but he's a great comic. We'll do this for you for this price. She's like, sure. And then before she even confirms the price of what I said, she makes a flyer with our names on it. I'm like, okay, I'm assuming that this is the price you're going to pay us what we said.
Yeah.
My plus the other girl plus Sally. Like whatever you negotiate with her is none of my business. So then she says, I'm like, oh, so we're good for that month. And then she says, oh, I only have this much budget. You guys have to talk amongst yourselves on how. I said, no. So I messaged Sally and I'm like, hey, this is what me and Mike said we would do it for. I don't know what deal is. And then she's like, well, I could headline or host or feature. And in my head, I worked with her once. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
hmm. I know this was years ago. And I'm like, I don't think you can do pretty much any of those things you could say. But okay, you know what? I don't care if you headline. I hope what I don't care.
So what did
So,
Missy Allen say?
yeah, she
Close?
we'll get yeah, we're on the level of Missy Allen.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha.
going on a limb, maybe worse. Okay.
Ooh,
So
ooh.
anyway, I said to her at one point, then she goes, I said, you have sound, and I'm talking about lights and how the table rate, and she goes, um, any chance you could uh donate your sound? I'm like, I said, like this is what I usually charge, and like you're already getting us at like bare minimum. I'm trying to help you. Okay, I'm trying to help you. She's like, well, I know you live close. Like maybe you would do it, the sound. And here's the thing with bringing sound and lights and stuff. You have to be the first one there. You have to be the last one to leave. Like it's not me
Yeah.
showing up and doing a set. It's like you're producing. So now I'm bringing the headliner. I'm bringing myself. Me and Mike's. I said you headline or whatever. So I eventually, this is where I've grown as a comic slash producer, whatever. I'm like, you know what? I got to message this lady. I said, look, we got to clear some things up. Like you said, you didn't guarantee you asked me, would someone do the same price as you? I said, yes. I got you comic. Then you said you're going to divide the price amongst us. Then you told me to communicate on your own. Then you asked me to bring the sound. And then, out of all things, she had the balls to message me one day and say, oh, can you guys sell tickets? Can you post a ticket list and start
Wow.
pushing? I said, you got to be kidding me. Like, I said, I'm trying to help you. I know this is a fundraiser. Fundraisers are stressful, but you could raise a lot of money doing this. Okay. I said, this is the price. I said, and I'm trying not to come off in a certain way, but I said, your messages are all over the place and you're just not making sense. Like, I want to help you. So please clear this up. So awkward. She's like, oh, I didn't want to come up like this. I heard the going rate for a comic doing a spot this long as this. And I said, yeah, it can be. I said, but you're asking me to book the show, light the show, sound the show, and then you asked me to sell tickets. She's like, I wasn't asking you to sell tickets. I was asking you like if you had a following to push it out. I'm like, you're asking me to sell tickets. So
Could you cater? You have
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
puff pastries
Yeah.
that you could bring with you before you go on stage.
Yeah. Do you make your own cocktail weenies or can you pick some up from Trader Joe's on the way over?
Do you bring a liquor license with you? Because we really want to sell beer at this place.
So I go through the whole thing. I'm like, okay, look, I'm gonna do it. It's fine. I said just in the future, like, trust me. I said like I'm bringing good comic or comics like this is just what they cost. You want the show to be valuable so people come back and come to your fundraiser every year. They go and see crap comedians. They're never coming back again. Period.
Yeah.
So then I also asked her, okay, like you're out opening the doors at 6:30. So food's going to be served at 6:30. The show is going to be at 8. The food should be cleared off the table. That's kind of the rule. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, if there's some straggling food, whatever, but it shouldn't be like me competing with
The
tiramisu.
salad course.
Yeah. So sure enough, I get there. I set up the sound table set up like an eighth grade dance on one side and the other. I said there should be no gaps in the middle, but whatever, we'll make it work. The room's narrow enough. I start setting up. Cable on my mixer is broken. I have to like reroute stuff, blah, 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 blah. But I'm already kind of frustrated. Not a single food dish in sight. Like nobody's eating. And I'm like, okay, here we go. The lights are all all the way up, so the room is like bright white. I'm like, okay, we got to turn these down. I have a spot, like it's got to be dark. No one laughs in the middle of daylight. Okay.
Yeah.
So sure enough, whatever I said to her, it's like 8:15. I said, we're just gonna go. We're just gonna go and we're gonna fight through the food. I said, I don't care. I'll sit up there and bomb for 30 minutes with people eating food. So now the host goes up, okay, first, and she has notes upon notes, like reading like a script, like a comedy set. I'm like, I know she's gonna suck because anyone who writes it out word for word, I've learned over the years is done. There's
Nope.
not a speech, there's no performance there. And she's like, yeah, like I've been doing this like 7 years. Like, how are we gonna divide this up? Like, I'm getting nervous, blah blah blah. I'm like, go have fun, go work the crowd a little bit. She goes up, and I have not seen less reaction in so long in doing she is going up. Me and Mike are in the other room, like, oh my God, please get a laugh. Please get it. Like, please do some. Go ask whose birthday is it? Ask who's married. Ask how you doing tonight. Who's, worked. She's just going joke after joke after joke. You don't even hear like a guilty laugh, like like nothing. Dead silence.
Chicken eating.
Going and going and going. It's like 15 minutes and blah blah. At one point, she's like, "Who's from Rockaway here? You guys know Green Pond Road? That movie that road is crazy. It's windy and has dangerous curves, just like me."
Oh,
I'm like, oh my God.
oh no,
Oh
no,
my God.
no. That's when comedians need licenses. You go, give it to me.
Yeah.
Give it
So
to me.
I'm out there with the woman who, ran the show, booked me, and I looked at her and I said, "Did we learn our lesson here?" She goes, "Oh yeah, she's real rough." I said, "No, watch what I'm gonna have to do to try to." So whatever, I go on. It's brutal circumstances. There's guy watching the Duke game at the table in front
Dukes
of
of
them.
Hazzard?
No, the Duke game, March Madness.
Dukes of Hazzard, yeah.
Yeah. I have to pull every trick I have out of the book, like getting the room together, getting people to cheer, making fun of the old people. I have to like host myself into a set because it's so bad. And I will say, I give myself a pat on the back. I did get him. I did a half hour, and 20 of it was good. The first 10 was so much work, like trying to get them to be part of a comedy show. And so then I get off, and then she goes back on. She's like, yeah, I was going to do some time in between Mike. Now I go off on my closing bit, which generally gets a pretty good laugh. And they're finally in the show back. The rule of thumb is if they're rolling, just bring the next fucking act on.
Bring
That's
out
it.
the guy who's going to end it, who's done there a million times. Don't chance it.
You literally say nothing. You say, having a good time tonight? Let's keep it going for our headliner, Mike Sicoli, and that's it. You get off. She goes into like 7-8 minutes of just dead silence. Dead silence. And the woman's like, thank you. She comes up, she's like, thank you. I'll listen to you next time. I said, well, whatever. I said, now Mike's got to work. And Mike does a job, does a great job. But oh my God, like people coming up to me and Mike after the show, like, great job. Like, you have a card, whatever. And every single comment was like, oh man, what was with the first comic? I'm like, I don't know. She's a good comic, I got to play the game. But then I'm handing out business cards and I'm like, I hope they don't think that I booked her, because I had nothing to do with that. But here's a lesson for anyone running a comedy show. Let the person who's done comedy before or done it do it for you and just listen to them. Listen, you want to negotiate on price? That's fine. Your budget is your budget. But it's a very simple thing to run, and it's the easiest thing to ruin. You cram it into things. You have food out there. You have TVs on. And best of all, you have crap comics. It's never going to work for you again. And people are going to say, oh, comedy night. Ugh. I had a guy reach out to me recently. He's like, we want a 5 comic show for $250. I said, I said, on
Five.
what planet are you guys, what are you paying for? Who do you expect?
Number one, that's way under the price range. And number two, there's not a lot of people that are going to sit through 5 comedians.
No.
I'm sorry. No, they all have to be 5 killer comedians
I mean,
to be rolling.
5, 10, 15-minute sets, I get, but like 5, like what quality are you trying? So you want sound, you want lights, you want 5 comics, you want flyers, you want for $250. I can't get a plumber to look at my toilet for less than $200. And you want a full comedy show to entertain 100 people for $250? Like, it's absurd. Like, comics out there, my only advice as a guy who has been doing this for a little while now and knows some things, not even about my comedy per se, just say no. Just say, like, no, go elsewhere. Like, don't, just stop doing this. Stop letting people just, it's so bad, man. So,
Well, maybe you should have emphasized how dangerous the curves were on Green Pond Road. Because if you start the show with that and then she comes up there and she's like, it's just like me, like that place would have just fell to the ground and it would have been just like butter in your hand.
I mean, I even said something when I went out there. I'm like, guys, we need some energy, man. I said the last 15 minutes, it sounds like a dialysis clinic in here. Like we need to start like, getting together here. And I was basically like just taking a shot, like, get off the stage, man. Get off the stage. I don't care if you suck, you bomb. I've been there 100 times. Get off the stage. Let someone else either take the bomb and bomb with you or make the show that the 70, 80 people who were there paid for worth something, Or
at least bring out your solid 20 after that first bomb 15. Like when it's like, oh, now I gotta go to the A game and here's my half an hour rendition of comedy.
Yeah. So in terrible circumstances, me and Mike were able to at least give them something that they enjoyed. But comedy is interesting, that's for sure.
So it sounds like we both worked out, Scott. You feel me?
That's it. Mike, let's get out of here. Anything to promote before we go?
I'm going to promote our friends at Atlanta Tucky, ran by the wonderful guys at the Nappy Roots. It is now called Atlanta Tucky Pies and Paninis. They're serving food there along with their amazing craft beer. I got to check it out. They're a block away from Mercedes-Benz Stadium and all. If you go to a game and you're done, you want to keep the party going, head on over to Atlanta Tucky Pies and Paninis.
Awesome. And I will promote, it's actually like a triple promotion because I believe in all 3 of these things. So on April 13th at the Dojo of Comedy here in Morris Plains, becoming like the club in New Jersey other than the Stress Factory. They're doing a really nice job. Our good friends KP Burke and Mike Sicoli are recording half-hour specials. So that you get to see both of them. They're both killer comics. They're both great people. I can't make it because I have something that night, but otherwise I would be there. They record you, so you're getting to see both. They're recording their half hours. They're both fantastic comics. You can't lose, and it's a great venue. So go check out all 3 of them. Look at the Dojo of Comedy, April 13th, Mike Sicoli and KP Burke. Other than that, guys, I want to thank everyone for listening, everyone for commenting. We got some cool stuff coming up. Some stuff I'm pretty happy about. But I want to thank Randy Cross for coming on the show. And other than that, guys, life is funny. Laugh and keep the wind at your back.
Come back to the gun show next week, people.